And good evening, baseball fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We have not as much baseball as we usually have to talk about. A lot of action going on currently tonight. We have a weekend to recap, and of course, a couple of things to look forward to. And of course, joining me, as always, is Freddie B. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Good evening to you, sir.
Yes. Good evening indeed. Can you believe this is the 16th episode of season 2 of the Bullpen Bulletin? We have
Wow.
gone 16 shows so far, and that's with us missing a couple. We could be close to 20 if
Yeah.
not for a few things here and there.
Hey, no better way to spend a Monday evening.
Absolutely. Than talking about baseball. And speaking of which, let's get right to it with the current score update, because as Freddie and I noted before we went live, everybody playing tonight. Very rare for a Monday, although, of course, they did all just get most of a week off. So I guess that kind of makes sense to have everybody going. But let's get right to it. We've got the Guardians in Cleveland against the Twins. They're leading that one 13-3. Great offensive performance by them there. We've got Baltimore and Boston in a battle of two of the hottest teams in baseball right now, facing off in Boston. The Orioles actually leading that one 5-4, that in the bottom of the 7th. We've got the Phillies and Dodgers, great series shaping up here going right now. Phillies lead that one 4-2 in the top of the 6th. However, the Dodgers are threatening with runners on second and third and one out. So we'll see if they can close the gap. The Yankees at home against the Pirates, they're leading that one 8-5. And then let's see, going down the list, the Rays are beating the Blue Jays 6-1. That one in the bottom of the 7th. The Braves are leading the Padres 3-2 in the top of the 7th here. The Brewers are beating the Mets 5-1. That one midway through the 5th. The Royals leading the Giants 3-1. That one in the bottom of the 5th. We've got the Nationals leading the Rockies 3-0. That one just entering the top of the 2nd there. We've got the White Sox and Rangers. The Rangers leading this one 2-1. That one just finished up the top of the 3rd. They're in the middle 3rd now. We've got the Tigers already up on the Cubs 4-0. A quick start for the Tigers there. Back-to-back home runs by Riley Green and Dylan Dingler in that one. So that one 4-0 in the bottom of the 2nd. The Astros are leading the Marlins 6-2 early. That one in the top of the 3rd there. And then later on tonight, starting in the next hour or so, we've got the Athletics are at the Diamondbacks. We've got the Reds are in Seattle to face off against the Mariners. And we've got the Cardinals battling the Angels in Anaheim. So that is your very crowded Monday night schedule. Any of those scores kind of surprising you, Freddie?
None of the scores really surprising. That Dodgers-Phillies game is obviously must-see TV, I think, tonight with two, powerhouses in the National League right there. Yeah, Orioles and Red Sox, man. I mean, you talk about those two teams are the two hottest right now, and the Red Sox just tied it up on a double. It's 5-5 now in the bottom of the 7th. What is their winning streak? A 13-game winning streak right now? Is that what they're up to?
13 games for the Red Sox, yes.
Unbelievable.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. The Red Sox just tied it up. The Orioles with their 4th error of the game, by the way, just now. So I don't know what is going on with them in the defensive field, but it is not looking good. That is one surefire way to lose a game. So obviously with this past week being All-Star Week, there wasn't a ton of news. There were a couple of contract extensions, a couple of minor trades, but mostly we just have the All-Star Game to recap, which was, well, in my opinion, a bit of a snooze fest as the American League came out on top 4-0. The only home run in this one from Miguel Vargas. Of course, this was in the 8th inning when it was already 3-0, and the National League showed virtually zero life, 3 hits and 2 walks. So a total of 5 base runners, but 15 strikeouts for the National League. Freddie, was this incredibly mediocre All-Star game here? Was this really bad? A snooze fest, would you say?
Snooze fest, yes, indeed. Christopher Sanchez gave up 3 runs, and that was basically the end of the game at that point. I mean, To be honest with you, Mike, last Tuesday, I didn't spend a whole lot of time watching this game. I did catch a few innings, the later innings. I caught up probably the 8th and 9th, but yeah, no excitement in it. I don't know what's happened to the All-Star game and the lore and everything that came with that. I just don't feel it anymore. And it's like that with all professional sports and All-Star games. They're just pointless and meaningless. And when you have it 95 games into the season, it's not necessarily the halfway point. I don't know. Cody Bellinger, congrats on him. He won MVP of the All-Star game. Pretty good on him. Scary situation. Junior Caminero getting hit with a pitch on his hand. Luckily, no significant damage. He's back in the Rays lineup. So that was a scary situation. You never want to see, anybody getting hurt. It kind of reminds me of the time when it was Randy Johnson pitching. I think it was John Kruk up at the plate, and he put his helmet on backwards. Was it him or I could be wrong. Was it Kruk?
I think it was
Larry Walker.
Although I think he did something.
Larry Walker.
Yeah, Larry Walker was the guy there. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I wasn't highly entertained by the game at all. What about yourself?
Yeah, it was like the first inning was exciting for the American League, getting 3 runs, especially off of Christopher Sanchez. I think was a bit surprising. But then after that, I mean, you have 1 run of offense the entire rest of the game. The American League pitchers did pretty well. Dylan Cease and company. A lot of different guys got in. But overall, just not exciting at all. And I think the MLB kind of knows this a little bit about the All-Star game, which is why they try to do so much with the home run derby and the celebrity softball game and all of the other events, is because, and I think other sports kind of do that as well. You got NBA, you've got the dunk contest, the 3-point contest, the skill competition. Why do they do all of this? To entertain the fans, because the actual game itself is not entertaining. Same with the NHL. A lot of people have argued that they should bring back the NFL skills competition.
I loved it.
That was at least a fun, entertaining thing to do with the Pro Bowl, but just a snooze fest, not really any effort. And, there have been effort from, in All-Star games in the past. I can remember Ichiro Suzuki robbing Barry Bonds of a home run in an All-Star game. I believe that was the Milwaukee game in 2002, of course, coming off of Bonds' historic 2001 season. I don't know. I don't know if it's really fun. Players are having as much fun there as they used to. Some guys are. I know Adley Rutschman and Brian Baker, who were former teammates, who got to be in a battery one more time. They seem to have a blast getting to play together again. But yeah, as a whole, just not really an exciting event. Maybe
I mean, the National League only had 1 hit going into the 8th inning as well.
Right.
I turned that on. I'm like, are you seriously getting 1 hit, All-Stars? But how do you fix it?
A team of all-stars and you guys have 1 hit through 7 innings.
Right.
Like it's like if you're playing a regular baseball game and you see a team getting 1 hit, you're like, oh, fantastic, good job on the pitcher, all that jazz.
What do you do, Mike, to make the All-Star game? Obviously, years back they made it. They changed the rule where winning mattered, so the winning league would host in the World Series. But I mean, how do you make this game relevant? I don't know how you can.
I am of the opinion, and this is a universal opinion for me across all of the major sports. Vote the best players in, and then like vote for the best players, select the best players, and then don't play a game. Because there's no point in playing the game if nobody's going to care about the game and the game is meaningless. Do something like I said, just add more like skills and fun things and, player meet and greets and like all this jazz. Like if you're not going to care about the game, then don't play the game.
Make it, add some fun festivities for that.
Yes.
I mean, the home run derby, they changed the ruling of it this year, and it made it a little bit more exciting, I think, in incredible fashion for Jordan Walker to hit 5 straight bombs to win that thing on, and win it on his last swing to beat Schwarber. But yeah, I mean, like in the Japanese league, have you seen their all-star competitions? They have like a bunting competition, like who can get it closest.
I have seen the bunting competition.
I
yes,
mean, make it fun like that.
Yes.
Make it, who could, catch a fly ball, and then you got like a couple of targets at some of the bases, and you got to try to throw the ball, into the target or in. I don't know what you do, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely probably one of the worst. I don't know what the ratings were, but in terms of pure enjoyment, this had been one of the worst All-Star games on record.
Yeah, and let the hitters hit around, have some fun, do some fun base running things. Maybe do an outfield competition where you see who can catch the most like fly balls or something, or who can make the most spectacular catch. Don't even the pitchers stay out of it. Like, look, you're there. Wave to the fans. You're the Queen of England. Like, because the only thing that can happen to the pitchers is you hurt yourself. Really, like that's the biggest. Like that's the only outcome that you can have. Otherwise, you're just throwing the ball, or you're just throwing a bullpen session. But
exactly.
I mean, if nobody's going to care about the game, don't play the game. And I understand why they don't go full speed, because it's just an exhibition game. Middle of the year, nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to risk what happened to Junior Caminero. But yeah, if you're not going to care about the game, don't play the game.
Tell that to Pete Rose, right?
Yeah.
Running catchers over in the All-Star game.
Guys used to go all out.
I know. You just don't see that anymore. It kind of sucks, because growing up as a kid, I looked forward to the MLB All-Star game all the time. And being an Angels fan, you got one player picked in the All-Star game, and then they were never good enough to ever. Maybe you may have gotten like an AB, like in the 8th inning, like a pinch hit by like JT Snow or so, whoever. Chuck Finley might pitch an inning or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just not the same.
Yeah, no. And then, I mean, you've got guys like no offense to Mike Trout. He led off the American League. He's got a 237 batting average this year. Like, and you end up with guys like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. got voted in as the starter while he's having his worst career year as a pro. Of course, he bowed out because of his back injury. But, you look around, just all sorts of things. And like I said, this is not an MLB exclusive issue. This is an issue, sports wide, all the major sports. I will say the NBA seems to do a little bit better job of getting like the best players into the All-Star game, I will say, than the other sports. NFL just feels ridiculous at this point. It was ridiculous to me when it was like 3 or 4 years ago, Tyler Huntley was representing the AFC in the Pro Bowl. Like I remember that. Tyler Huntley, he had 9 touchdowns and 8 picks.
I think Shedeur Sanders made it this year, right?
Yeah,
that's like
Shedeur
the same
Sanders
thing.
It this year. Okay. Like what in the world? What do you mean Shedeur Sanders is in the Pro Bowl?
I mean, you said guys like Steve Young and Dan Marino, John Elway, Brett Favre. Those guys were he had the best of the best.
Especially in the NFL, where they have the All-Pro teams. Why do you need All-Pro and Pro Bowl?
I don't know.
First team, second team, add a third team All-Pro, add a third one. Get all the guys together and just,
I agree.
Have fun. They're already there to not take it seriously anyway, so do stuff that's not serious.
Yeah. We'll see.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they make any significant changes. But for now, back to your regularly scheduled baseball, because we did have games this past weekend, some very significant series, and some teams that are actually really hot right now. Not a ton of teams that are ice cold. Well, there's a couple of teams that are ice cold. But Freddie, who are your kind of teams that you wanted to highlight for your weekend review? Who is hot and who is not?
I'll let you touch on the Orioles and Red Sox, because obviously no question that those two teams are the hottest teams right now. But
right,
I'm going to start with a team that's not hot right now, and I just can't figure them out, because sometimes they can go on a run and be the best team and look like the best team in the American League, and then sometimes, right now they're in the midst of a 5-game losing streak, and that's the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah,
I can't figure
absolutely.
it out. I think they're winning tonight. If I was looking correctly, where are they at?
Let's see.
I
Yeah,
think
they
they
were
were up.
winning at our score. Yeah, they're beating
Yeah,
Toronto. Yeah.
6-1. Yeah, yeah, that's a team that I want to see just play, a little bit more better consistency because before you know it, they go on another, multiple game losing streak like this. A team like the Red Sox, the Yankees, or the Orioles, who are playing much better at this point, that's going to close the gap in the American League East. Um, Other than that, nothing really caught my eye this weekend. Yankees Dodgers was a good series because of the history of the two teams and everything like that. But the games weren't really entertaining. I watched Sunday night baseball game last night on NBC was highly unentertaining as well. Maybe it's just the brand that maybe it's just the way the baseball's going right now. I don't know. I'm
Mhm.
losing my interest watching some of these games. And I don't know if it's just the same teams or whatnot, but give me your take on that, Mike. What caught your eye this week as far as games go?
Well, and I think you've got a point. I do think the narrative is kind of pushed around the same teams over and over again. I'll give you a fantastic example. So my wife is a big K-pop fan. Thank
Mhm.
you, K-pop Demon Hunters, that was released a year
Yes,
ago.
love that show. Yep.
Fantastic, fantastic movie, fantastic. Um, but so there is a band that she is a fan of, and one of the singers of the group was wearing a knit, like kind of weird looking, but it was baseball hat because baseball is popular in Korea. And several of the members of this group are actually big baseball fans. So she was like, "Ooh, I want one of these hats. Let me look them up." They only had Yankees, Red Sox, and Dodgers.
Of course.
That was it. That was the only three that they had. So it's like I agree with you. Yeah. I think the problem that they're putting on baseball fans is that if you want to see more of a team that isn't like one of those big teams, Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, really those three seem to be the ones that get shoved down
Yeah.
everybody's throats. And not your local team, because obviously it's easy to find local information or, things that you can kind of like for example, I'm an Orioles fan. I live in North Carolina, but all I have to do is follow a bunch of Orioles people on X or, social media. And by the way, if you're a fan of the show, please follow us on X at IESR_DMV for yours truly and at Freddie B_sports. There you go. There was your
Yeah,
transition for
you
the
got
day.
it. Boom.
Bingo.
Hey,
But yes, but you also don't want to have to do that for every team. So if you want to follow somebody that isn't those, you kind of have to put some pretty decent effort into it, which I think is a bit annoying. Or you have to pay a lot of money for like, MLB TV and you get to watch all the games and whatever. One team that has actually stood out to me over the past, week or so leading up to the All-Star break and then this past weekend, the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks.
They
Yeah.
are very, and I would definitely say quietly because nobody's paying attention to them in that division with the Dodgers. But they are quietly creeping their way back into the playoff picture and into the wild card picture. Not quite the division because they still an 11 and a half game gap there, but they're in the same conversation. They're just behind St. Louis and Miami, who are the Miami has the or no, St. Louis
And Pittsburgh.
and Pittsburgh. Yes, St. Louis has the third wild card spot by like fractional points at the moment, and then like you said, you've got Miami and Pittsburgh right there, and then Arizona's right there too. Sucks for the Nationals because they're 50-50. They'd be almost leading a division in the American League, but in the National League, they're pretty decently out of the playoffs there. Obviously, you mentioned the Orioles and the Red Sox. Two teams that are super hot. The Orioles, I will put an asterisk a little bit, not partially because I'm not trying to jinx, but also because they swept the Royals, who are one of the worst teams in the American League, and the Astros, who have been super inconsistent this year. So, versus the Red Sox, who are beating like pretty strong rivals, the Rays, the White Sox, who are a playoff team, Okay, they did play the Mets and the Yankees, but a 4-game sweep of the Rays is pretty darn good.
That's
Um,
really good.
and another team that's also kind of roaring up the ranks, and I think we talked about them a little bit before the break, the Tigers continue to
Yeah.
kind of force their way up. And you got to wonder in a American League where, you mentioned the Rays. Who are the Rays? Can we get, will the real Tampa Bay Rays please stand up? Who are they? The Yankees, they're going to be the Yankees. They're going to be a powerhouse. They're always a threat. Central Division, White Sox looking okay. Guardians kind of seem to be kind of slowly kind of fading in the race. So there's opportunity there for a team like the Tigers. West, wide open, and whoever wins it probably isn't going to last very long. So it's not just you look at these teams, the Tigers, the Orioles, and the Red Sox who are charging. It's not just do they get in? Because, a couple of at least one of them, I think, will.
Mm-hmm.
Even two, it's a question of, do they have the momentum? They then shoot themselves to a deep playoff run, because we've seen it in the past in baseball, especially. You get to the postseason hot, you can carry that momentum through these series and really make a surprising run.
You've seen over the last 5 or 6 years wild card teams making deep runs and getting, even into the World Series at some points. I mean, like you said, the Tigers, I mean, they came back, they beat the Angels on Friday night. They were down 1-0 and scored 2 in the top of the ninth and held on to beat the Angels. And, they took 2 out of 3 that series. Skubal pitched the next night and they scored like 6 runs in the first inning, and it was already over at that
Right.
point. The Tigers are a team, we're keeping our focus on. I think the Twins still playing pretty good, but we're 3 weeks away, 3 weeks away from trade deadline. Now, a team like that's on the cusp of being a wild card team, only 2 games out right now. Are they going to be buyers or sellers? I don't think they're going to be buyers really, but they do have some assets that they could probably move on. Joe Ryan probably being one of the biggest names, and maybe another guy like Josh Bell. He always seems to be brought up at the trade deadline as somebody moving. But if they're in a position where they can maybe still win the division, maybe they hold on to some of these pieces. I'm
Right.
really interested to see it, as so many teams are sub 500, but still, within a handful of games of getting into a playoff spot through the wild card. The National League, the same way. I mean, like you said, St. Louis, Miami, and Pittsburgh, identical records, and the Diamondbacks are a half game behind. That's crazy.
Yep. And we're going to talk about the trade deadline here more in just a couple of topics. Before we get there, we'll have our break. But before our break, we're going to look ahead now. Of course, now we have a full week's slate of games ahead of us. It's obviously the series starting tonight. They'll go through the rest of the week. I believe Thursday is actually setting up to be a very light day. Yes, only five games on Thursday. So pretty much you've got the series, and then you've got a gap, and then you've got the weekend series. So Freddie, what are some of the series that stand out to you? Obviously, we've seen the series tonight. We know the significant ones, Baltimore, Boston. You can talk about a couple of the ones going early part of the week, but then, of course, the later part of the week as well.
Yeah, I mean the Phillies and Dodgers obviously is a big series just because of those two teams, and the Phillies are right there, only 3 games behind the Braves, and Blue Jays and Rays. The big series for me is Orioles and Red Sox in the first half of this week. Now, as we look towards the second half going into the weekend, Cubs at Pittsburgh. That's going to be a big game. Can the Pirates take a series at home against the Cubs, a team that they're chasing as well, and trying to make a wild card push? Cleveland at Tampa Bay, another pretty decent matchup, I think. Cleveland is, I don't know what's going on with them. They just can't find their identity. I don't know what they're lacking. And again, a Tampa Bay team who's had a little bit of struggles here as of late. So I think those are 2 pretty good series to keep my eye on. And then obviously, we got some American League West matchups like the Mariners and the Rangers. Both those 2 teams are battling for first place right now. So we've got a handful of pretty good matchups, a handful of matchups that have 0 playoff significance for teams that are at the bottoms of their divisions. But yeah, overall, I think we're in for a good week of baseball, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, clearly you got to be looking at the Angels at the Giants. I mean, that one's going to have massive implications moving on down the season. Of course, it will not. Yeah. Yeah, no, this week, obviously, I think you're right. The Orioles, Red Sox is one of the big ones. Phillies, by the way, have expanded their lead. They're now up 8-3 against the Dodgers.
Nice.
So, they continue to play well there. I think, you look at a White Sox and Rangers, two teams that are trying to show that they are playoff caliber in the American League, trying to put it all together so that they can make a run. Like I said, aside from the Yankees, I don't know if anyone in the American League you can give an incredible vote of confidence to. So that's what's going to make it. Even if you're in the lead of the division and looking good, you got to try to see if you can catch that momentum and see if you can be that team that steps up and takes it. Like, this is the opportunity year for an American League team. Somebody's got to be looking at this going, guys, this is like the White Sox, a team that nobody thought was going to be a contender. I was like, okay, it's great that we're suddenly a contender, but also this thing's wide open. Like, there's a finish line right there, and there's one person but standing in front of us.
Yep.
Like we can rush out and we can try to take this thing. So, and same with the Rangers, a team that I think some people thought would at least be competitive. So that one's not as surprising. Other than that, yeah, no, it's not really a ton of super playoff implication games here in the early part of the week. Pittsburgh Yankees is an interesting one. But yeah, looking ahead to the weekend, you mentioned Cubs Pirates. That's a great pick. Yankees Phillies. That's a really interesting one. And especially for the Phillies, a team that started off the year cold has come roaring back. You get the Dodgers and then you get the Yankees back to back. That's not fair scheduling, first of all. I don't know who did that to the Phillies, or if the Phillies did something to the schedule maker or whatnot, but that is they made somebody mad in order to get that ruling there. Looking down the rest of the list, you mentioned Cleveland and Tampa. That should be fun. Seattle, Texas. Yeah, not a huge, great slate of games coming up this weekend, but a couple of really intriguing series and a couple of fun divisional matchups. Toronto, Boston, good AL East matchup, always a good one there. So that will do it for the first half of our show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, like I said, we're going to talk more trade deadline. We'll have to update you on more current scores because the games keep going tonight. They're not stopping. And then, of course, we have to go down on the farm. So do not go away. You are listening to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
From the stadium lights to the stadium shade, the clubhouse crews, the on-field MCs, delicious park food and the summer breeze. Every voice in the game. Catch dirt and diamonds every single week. The California League coverage that you'll seek with Larry B and Freddie B running the show.
dirt and diamonds every minor league season. For the latest in the California League with Larry B and Freddie B on IE Sports Radio. Keep that dirt flying, and we'll see you next pitch.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Of course, we are going to, before we dive into our last couple topics, take a look back at the scoreboard. We do have one game that has gone final. The Guardians did wrap it up with a 13-4 win over the Twins. Key win for them as they continue their playoff fight in the second half. Orioles and Red Sox. The Red Sox have taken the lead 6-5. This one in the top of the ninth with 2 outs, runner on first. Aroldis Chapman facing off with Gunnar Henderson to see if he can get the final out there. The Phillies are still leading the Dodgers 8-4. That one in the bottom of the 7th. The Yankees still leading the Pirates 8-5. That one in the top of the 8th. The Rays 7-1 lead against the Blue Jays. That one in the bottom of the 9th as the Rays look to finish that one off. We've got the Brewers are leading the Mets 8-1 in the 7th inning. We also have the I just lost my spot. The Royals are leading the Giants 3-1 in the 7th inning. We've got White Sox leading the Rangers 5-2. That one top 5. The Cubs are shortening the gap against the Tigers 4-3. That one in the 4th. The Astros are leading the Marlins still 6-4. That one in the 5th. And the Rockies have tied it up against the Nationals. That one is tied at 3 at the end of the 3rd. And the other games, the West Coast games, have not quite started. We are just on the cusp of those ones getting going. So as we kind of discussed a little bit in the first half of the show, the trade deadline is coming up. Specifically, it is 2 weeks from today, August 3rd, which means we get to talk about it this week, next week, and then recap it the final week. So that'll be super fun. The cloudiness to me about this trade deadline is still so many teams, particularly in the American League, are within striking distance. I mean, you look at the standings here, you look at the wild card. I mean, the Detroit Tigers have the 4th worst record in the American League, 46-53. They're only 4.5 games back, and they've won 7 of their last 10. So, a lot of teams kind of hanging in that in-between land. Well, first, let's start here, Freddie B. Who are the teams that you think are definitively surefire they are selling at the deadline?
Well, obviously the Angels. I think they've got a couple of arms in Reed Detmers and Jose Soriano who would be great fits, especially Detmers, being a left-handed pitcher. A couple of teams in the NL Central, the Cubs and the Brewers are the 2 teams that come to mind for me as landing spots for Detmers. Talks about maybe the Padres. This team just can't get anything together. I mean, they've got some really bad contracts they would love to move away from as well. But I'd hate to lose a guy like Mason Miller, who you just traded Leo DeVries for, and then you have to turn around and trade him a year later. That kind of stings when Mason Miller's definitely been the brightest spot for the Padres this season. But they do have some middle of the road bullpen guys that they can maybe move, maybe get some action on Adrian Morejon or somebody like that. Oakland, another team, they could be making some trades. The Yankees, obviously, they've got pieces that they can sell and trade, but
Right.
the trading has already kind of started with the Dodgers making a move with an interdivision move with the Colorado Rockies and bringing in Seth Halverson. In exchange for Nick Fasano, a right-handed pitcher, and Landon Vitterick, who the Dodgers chose just last year in the draft. He's been playing here in Ontario for the Tower Buzzers. Got to see him quite a bit here. Good kid. So the Rockies getting a couple good prospects back. So I think we're going to start seeing a little bit more action here. August 3rd, still a couple of weeks away, but arms are going to be the most valuable thing. Who's going to land the best pitchers? And, if we had talked about this a month ago, which I think we may have, the Red Sox were lined up as potential sellers. They had some good arms that they can deal away. But now they're, about ready to win their 14th straight game. They're in a playoff spot. So I don't know if they're going to be selling it all.
It up with the victory. Yep, absolutely.
Honestly, I don't know. There are so many teams still, maybe Arizona. But again, they do this every year. They're always right there until the very end. I don't know. Give me some ideas who you think could be some movers as well, Mike.
Yeah, one team, and I've been thinking about this one a lot as we were getting towards this segment, and one team that I think
Giants
the Giants are definitely sellers. The question is who are they selling? It's like, and it's the same question with teams like the Rockies. Like, yes, the Rockies are going to be sellers. Who are they selling? The guy who they traded to the Dodgers had a 4.74 ERA out of the bullpen. Like, there isn't a ton to pick from. The reason why a lot of these teams are ranked so lowly is because they're bad. So,
exactly.
how many like the bottom teams in the league are not going to offer a ton. So teams that are out there looking, there's going to have to be some surprise options, I think, in order for teams to fulfill their needs. But so let me go back to the team I was starting with. A team that I just don't think is going to go all in, that is going to go big and might sell a couple of pieces, is the Nationals. Because realistically, yes, they're only 2 games out of the wild card. This is fantastic. It's a deceiving number. And the reason why that number is deceiving is because they're 4th in their division. They got no shot at the division. They're not passing the Marlins, who are hot, although the Marlins have gotten ice cold, but they got hot. The Phillies are too good. The Braves, yes, they've been dealing with issues. They're too good. They're not winning the division. The best case is if the Marlins continue to fall flat on their face, they might get to 3rd. In the wild card, yes, they're only 2 games back, but there are basically 4 teams that have that 3rd spot all tied. You'd have to jump all 4 of those teams. Because, again, you're not catching the Phillies and you're not catching the Cubs. It's just not going to happen. That plus, I think they just need a little bit too much to really be a contender. Other teams, you look around like the Phillies, great example. They need like a number 3/4 starter. Very attainable on the open market, even in a rough year. You can find a 3/4 starter. There's a bunch of them floating around. The Dodgers, they might be looking for a 4th starter, couple pieces in the bullpen. The Yankees, I've heard catcher. There are several of them available, etc. You get to the Nationals, what do they need? They need an ace.
Yep.
I'm not saying there are 0 aces available because obviously everybody's brain just went to Tariq Skubal. Great. the Nationals are not trading for Tyreek Skubal. Let's just be clear about this right now. That is not going to happen. And aside from Skubal, where the heck are you going to find an ace? You could go to the Angels, try to get Detmers or Soriano. You're probably going to be outbid for them, probably. But not only the ace, you also need a closer.
Yeah.
Like the two most important positions in a pitching staff you need. You're not getting both of those at the deadline. And if you don't get both of them, you're not a super competitive team. Now, they're not going to go whole fire sale. They're not going to get rid of James Wood. They're not going to get rid of CJ Abrams. They're not going to get rid of some of their young pieces. They might deal Foster Griffin. I think a team could probably pay a lot of money to Griffin, or pay a lot of capital for Griffin, who's having a phenomenal season. So that could be a move. I don't think they'll do a whole fire sale, but I think this is a team that could offer up more at the deadline than many people are thinking.
Maybe a team like the Royals too. The Royals may have a couple of arms, like a Seth Lugo or somebody like that who can slot in, and fill in as a 4-5 starter.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think you look at if a team needs a 3 or a 4 or a 5, like you say, there's going to be plenty of options. Like you say, Kansas City's got a couple of arms. The Angels, we've mentioned those guys. You might have to pay a little bit more, but they're going to have some arms. Houston seems to be falling out of it. I don't think they'd trade a guy like Hunter Brown, but if you look around, maybe they'd be willing to deal an Arrighetti or somebody like that. And then you look to the National League, not the Rockies. Nobody should ever trade for a pitcher from the Rockies. Maybe the Mets might have some arms to deal at the deadline, the Reds, the Giants, the Padres, guys like that. So there will be a handful of arms. It's just a question of, like, what do teams need? Like, if you need more than a 3 or 4, a 3/4 pitcher, it's going to be a rough time. Yep. It's going to be a rough time. Now, in terms of position players, honestly, I'm not entirely sure who is going to be on the market. Popular one with the Orioles has been Taylor Ward, depending on how the Orioles approach the deadline. He's on an expiring deal. Those are very popular to trade. Another name for the Orioles that has been very popular, Trevor Rogers, who has been great over the last month and a half. He's also on an expiring deal. That makes a lot of sense for a team like the Phillies that have a lot of guys under contract. Maybe you just need a 1-year rental. Or a team like the Dodgers, maybe you just need that 1-year rental guy to fill in that spot. So I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I just thought about this one here real quick. You talk about the Yankees looking for a catcher. Perfect catcher available for him, Shane Langoliers.
Oh yeah.
They can make a nice trade. They can make a nice trade. Yeah, or Goodman. We talked about him on last week's show.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's why, depending on your needs, some teams are going to do very well at this deadline and some are not. I don't know who's going to be available. Like, obviously, every, team that is out of the playoffs is probably going to be on the seller's market, just kind of open their bullpen like it's a collectible card book. Like, what one do you want and what do you got to trade for it? So I'm sure you're going to see bullpen arms flying left and right. But in terms of closers or high-end setup men, other than Mason Miller, who's been a very popular one, don't really know who's available. Again, if the Orioles are sellers, that'll open up some arms. Nationals, absolutely not for the bullpen. Rockies, absolutely not for the bullpen. I haven't looked at the Giants bullpen, but they usually have at least a couple of arms.
Giants have a couple of arms
and a ton of great arms. But yeah.
The Giants have arms and they've got some players in the field as well. Luis Ariz possibly being one of them. They're not. I don't think they're going to be able to afford to bring him back. I think the Giants might be a big player in the selling game this this trade deadline.
Yes, the Giants are going to be in the same position like who was it last year? It was the Twins, the Diamondbacks, and the Orioles last year.
Mm-hmm.
Combined had traded away 25 guys or something at the deadline. It was some ridiculous number.
Jung Ho Lee, another one being talked about. That's a guy that you can have about at the top of your batting order. He gets on base. Plays a decent outfield. So The Giants, I think, are a team to keep an eye on as far as, who they're going to be dealing off.
Yeah. Yeah. One team I'm very curious to see how they play it is the Reds. They're basically out of it in the National League. They're last in their division. They had a good start, but they've fallen off. What did I know they have, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the Hunter Green, who just came back from injury. They're probably not going to deal him. He's still young, still has control, and also, well, he just came off of injury. Obviously, they're going to keep Chase Burns, who's having a great year.
They just signed him.
But,
They just locked him up.
Right. But
Yeah.
I was trying to remember. I knew because last week we talked about JJ Weatherholt and the contract he signed. I knew there was another promising young guy who signed an extension this past week. It was Chase Burns. Congratulations to him, by the way. Great deal for him. And by the way, smart deal for him and his agent, because if I read the numbers correctly, he gets to enter free agency at the age of 30, which is prime year for that second big deal for pitchers. I mean, we saw what Dylan Cease just got in free agency as his 30. We're going to see what Tariq Skubal gets. He's around that age as well. So great move for him and his family and by his agent as well.
Here's a couple of names I just pulled up. You were talking about the Reds. As far as pitchers go, I mean, Brady Singer, obviously a pitcher that they can probably deal. Eugenio Suarez, somebody's going to need a bat, come and it could be a third baseman or a DH. Same thing with Nathaniel Lowe. He could be a first base or a DH. And Tyler Stevenson, another suitable catcher for a team looking for some, help behind the plate. So just a couple of options there from the Cincinnati Reds standpoint of who they may be looking to deal as well.
Yep, absolutely. And, and the Reds have so much young pitching and guys under control. You almost wonder if they look, and in addition to Singer, if they almost look at a Nick Lodolo or an Andrew Abbott, if they get the right trade package, do you entertain a deal for those guys as well?
Yeah.
Pitchers by themselves, yes, command amazing return. Pitchers with control, oh man, I mean, you can almost start asking for the world, if you're trading a decent starting pitcher with control. I mean, that could be a windfall for a team.
Problem is it's slim pickings, man, when it comes to a pitcher with that. And another trade that just happened last week as well, the Brewers picking up an arm in Lance McCullers Jr., making a deal with the Astros. So, I mean, he hasn't been the same, obviously, since his injuries happened, but he has some really good, his first couple of seasons with the Astros were really good years. And if you can put him in, be a number 5 or to give you innings, middle relief, Lance McCullers is a good arm that the Brewers just picked up.
Absolutely. I'll be interested to see what the first big deal is that drops. I know people were talking a couple of months back when Patrick Bailey got traded prematurely. Some people were wondering if that was going to trigger kind of an early deadline swing. No, it did not. And I wouldn't necessarily call McCullers Jr. or the Dodgers trade the big kind of mover. So it'll be interesting to see who the big movers are. I think we'll also get a little bit of clarity this week. I think some teams will start to fall out of these races and they'll really start to, add some clarity as to who the sellers are. But I think, kind of what I was talking about with the Nats earlier, there are going to be some surprise sellers and maybe a couple of surprise buyers, I think, at this deadline. I think there might be some more surprises than usual, and maybe some teams that are kind of swapping things around. I was talking about this with a coworker. Teams don't necessarily exclusively buy or sell at the deadline. Like if you have, because teams don't like true sellers and true buyers.
Yep.
They're either, the buyers are either offering prospects or the sellers are wanting prospects. Rarely do you trade an established veteran for an established veteran. But
it's rare. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say you have some excess outfielders and you need pitching. You would probably trade the outfielders for prospects and then offer prospects for the pitching. So you could see some of that as well. Some teams kind of moving the parts around kind of unilaterally as opposed to definitively one way or the other.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's going to be an interesting. This is the greatest time as we get into the end of July into August when the deadline
Yep.
comes around because you know things are starting to heat up. That's kind of when the season really gets into effect. Is the 2 months to go. You're starting to see separation in the standings on who's going to be a potential playoff team versus teams that are on their way out. So yeah, Mike, the next couple of weeks can be very interesting. A lot of it has to do with the way that these teams are playing going into the deadline as well, with so many teams still right there, and just in that middle ground. Who knows, man? It's a tough job
Right.
being a GM right now.
Yeah.
Do you want to improve the team? Obviously, you want to improve the team, but at what expense? Sometimes you got to make a
Absolutely.
deal.
Sometimes you got to make a deal.
I got to ask B Mad Dog. I don't think he's chimed in here tonight watching the show, but rumors of Xander Bogaerts possibly getting traded back to the Red Sox.
That would be fascinating. That would be fascinating. That would be one to see for sure. I'd be very curious to see if that goes down. Speaking of going down, we're going to go down to the farm now, where we take a look at some of the minor league news. I think the minor league season just kind of carried on as normal this past week. So I'm going to kick it off because there was a very fun game for the Frederick Keys this past weekend, the high A affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles, where they beat and I'm trying to get this team name here, the Greenville Drive.
Ooh, okay.
17-6. The Keys had 25 hits. And of those 25 hits, Ike Irish, last year's first round pick for the team, went 4 for 7 with 2 home runs and 6 RBI.
Solid.
That improved his OPS to 894 for the season. Creed Willems, who has been a longtime catching / first base prospect for the O's, in a rehab assignment in Frederick, went 3 for 6 with a home run and 2 RBIs. He also had a double. So in one game, he had a 500 batting average and a 1.7 OPS. Victor Figueroa had his 22nd home run of the season. You also had, I'm trying to get this name here, RJ Austin went 4 for 6. And then you had left fielder Colin Tuft went 2 for 3 with 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, and 3 walks.
Okay.
So an overall incredible performance all around. Yeah. Oh, and then last year's supplementary second round pick Wahiwa Aloy, he also went 4 for 5 with 2 doubles. So just an outstanding performance, and particularly encouraging to see from some of the Orioles' top prospects, namely Irish, Willems, Aloy, and Figueroa.
Yeah, those are some big names right there. Man, that's one heck of some stats too. 4 for 6, 4 for 7. Yep. A lot of runs.
And what's interesting is that the Greenville pitcher, the starter, threw 4 1/3 innings. He only gave up 2 runs.
Oh, so the later
the bullpen gave up the other 15 in the process.
Crazy. I you know what? I really don't have any minor league stuff for this week. I didn't get into the anything other than California League here to really pay much attention to as far as that goes. So I don't have anything to share this week down on the farm other than what we're doing, covering the California League on Dirt and Diamonds. A lot of good players in this league. We're seeing Angels first baseman prospect Rylan Zaborowski having a nice couple of weeks, starting to find power. He's a big, tall first baseman, strong guy. He's starting to hit the ball all over the park. And Easton Shelton, I've talked about him before, Dodgers first baseman prospect, 28 home runs, 87 RBIs, leading the California League. Those are godly numbers. Why hasn't he had a call up yet to high A? But I think that's just goes to show you how deep the Dodgers farm system is right now. Like, they really don't have anywhere to place him at this time.
Right. And an important side note for minor league teams as well, with the trade deadline, obviously a handful of these guys are going to be dealt. So
Mhm.
this is going to be a very interesting time for them. But also, as other prospects are moved within organizations, that is going to create opportunities for a lot of these guys to move up. As prospects are moved for players, or potentially make their jobs more crowded as players are moved for more prospects. And then simultaneously, in about a month after the trade deadline, you're going to have the roster expansions,
Expansion,
and
yeah,
then also the cutoff for service time is going to pass. So
right.
you're going to have higher AAA prospects get the call ups late August, early September, which again is going to create opportunity for that vertical movement through the minors. Also, I believe the end of August or beginning of September marks the end of the AA season, but the
Correct.
AAA season carries on. So you'll see a handful of AA guys get that move up to AAA for a little bit of extra playing time. So the next month and a half, very interesting time for these minor leaguers.
Yeah,
Because
lot of movement down on the
yeah,
farm because you got all the guys too, who were just drafted as well. Some of them will be
right.
getting some call ups and playing developmental league, Arizona Fall League, and some of them may be getting some play at the single A level or
Yeah,
high A.
especially
So
the college guys.
we'll
The
see.
college
Yeah.
guys, the college guys will get potentially, if they want to take that opportunity, particularly the hitters, will get that chance to go to single A and high A,
Yep.
in the next month or so. So you're right about that as well. Lot of maybe a lot of question marks for some of these guys. A lot of them wondering what their next month and a half is going to be like.
Absolutely.
And now we have come to the final segment of our show, the Around the Diamond segment, where we talk about just whatever topic we feel like this evening. Freddie B, I will let you have the floor first here since I stole the floor a
Oh
little bit
man.
on the down on the farm bit. So I'll let you take it away.
I just think the biggest thing is the Boston Red Sox. I don't know what to say other than, I mean, we haven't seen a team go on a streak like this. 14 games right now. We've seen a couple of teams like late last year when Cleveland overtook Detroit, but the run that the Red Sox are on right now, I don't see this stopping. I think they can actually continue this momentum, and they may find themselves battling for the division lead. They just have too many arms. Starting pitching is fantastic, and if they do bring a couple of pieces in, this could be a very dangerous team going forward. So the Red Sox, I mean, that's really all I have is just how it's outstanding they are. They're getting everything. They're playing a little bit of small ball, hits for some power, but it's really the pitching that's carried them to this point in the season. So just keep my focus on the Red Sox and see if they can, obviously they're playing your Orioles right now, so it hurts a little bit, but this is a really good streak that they're on right now. If they can continue this, we might be talking about them leading or being up there in the division on next week's show.
Absolutely. Hey, look, I just want the Orioles to end the streak in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely,
Don't
yeah.
get swept. Win one of them. Just end the streak, and let's just not. If they lose 2 of 3 to the Sox after winning 7 in a row, I'm not going to count that as the black mark on the season. So we'll see. My Around the Diamond is going to center around a very specific random player. Maybe you've heard of him before, maybe you haven't. Andres Chaparro of the Washington Nationals. Now, a little bit of background about Andres. He was acquired back in 2024 at the trade deadline when the Nationals sent Lane Thomas to the Guardians. He was one of the 3 players that came in the return. It was Chaparro, Jose Tena, and Alex Clemney. Chaparro almost immediately got called up, had some success 2024, down year 2025, and had been having a very poor 2026 until last Friday, when in the game where the Nationals beat the Athletics 23-4, Chaparro was one of the catalysts of that endeavor when he went 4 for 5 with 2 home runs and 8 RBI. So that brought his season home run total from 1 to 3, his RBI total from 7 to 15.
Jeez.
His slash line was, his batting average went from 167 to 220, and his OPS went from 585 to 776. His OPS rose 200 points on one game. His WAR went from negative to positive. And to make things even better for him tonight, he has a 3-run home run for his 4th home run of the season.
Dude is balling.
His OPS is almost, I think, after one at bat, because obviously it fluctuates back and forth. After that home run, which was in the first inning, his OPS was briefly above 800. It has since come back down. It is now sitting at 792. But I don't know if I've ever seen a guy in July just completely flip his season numbers on one game.
Now, which guy is the true guy? Is it the guy who's had the poor numbers all season, or is he really capable of being the guy that produced those big numbers?
Well, and what's really funny is that he was a very popular pick because the Nationals have a couple. He's a first baseman, first baseman / DH. The Nationals have a couple of of these types of guys at AAA who are knocking on the door, who are ready to make the call. And everyone's like, oh, just send Chaparro down. Okay. Well, now Chaparro has 3 home runs in his last 4 games, 11 RBI in his last 3 games. Do you send? Crazy. I don't know if you send him down right now. Maybe you let it ride a couple more games just to see. Overall, he's probably the guy who had a bad 2025 and then a bad first 31 games of 2026. But it's always fun to see these guys just randomly pop off and suddenly go on these little mini runs where
what is it? What was the catalyst that sparked it? Whatever it is, man. Whatever you ate, just keep on doing it. If you haven't changed keep wearing the same underwear or whatever it is,
Yeah. Did you floss your teeth one night and not the other? Like, what was the you bring up a good point. It gets to the point where the sports what's the word I'm looking for? The skepticism, the whimsy starts to come into play. Like there's a word I'm looking for, but I cannot get it. Superstition. Yeah, the superstitions start to come into play. Yeah. I remember back in college, we were watching a basketball game, me and some of my classmates. This was when I was at Florida State University, and Florida State, we were sitting and they weren't having a good game. And then we all sat down and started watching, and they went on a 7-0 run. Not a single person moved from their spot the rest of the game, because clearly that was the alignment that put the stars in order.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Now we went on to lose the game. The streak ended. That was it. It's that level of, look, dude, you just went 4 for 5 with 2 home runs and 8 RBI. What did you eat that day? Eat the exact same thing the rest of the season.
Yeah. Jeez. Hey, I just want to bring this up. This just happened tonight. I didn't even know about it till right now. Congratulations. This is a guy who I talked about, maybe the Twins, on an arm that could be available from the Twins, Joe Ryan, tonight becoming, I think, the 5th or 6th pitcher in MLB history to give up 6 home runs in a game. And he did that over 4 innings. So congratulations to Joe Ryan for doing that against the Guardians here today.
Hang on, I got this.
Yeah. 6 bombs and 8 runs over 4 innings. That's crazy. The last guy to do that, Miles Michaelis.
Ooh, yes. Probably for the Nationals earlier this year?
No, I think it was Cardinals back
back when he was at the Cardinals.
So it's been a while. One last thing. I know we're up against it here, but you told me your wife is a K-pop Demon Hunters fan, correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Take her out on a vacation. Come down to San Diego, because on September 9th, it's a Saturday, September 19th against the Marlins, It's K-pop Demon Hunters bobblehead night down here at Petco
Oh,
Park. If I happen to get
man.
to that game, I will try to get to that game for you if I can make it happen, and get your wife those special bobbleheads there. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you. I will not tell her because I will see a charge pop up on my credit card for plane tickets to San Diego to do that. So we will. But if you can, sir,
If I could
I
pull
will
that off,
thank you
I will. I just wanted to
kindly.
let you know.
If not, no hard feelings. It is all good, sir. Well, with that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up this evening. Once again, if you are a fan of the show, please follow us on X at IESR_DMV for yours truly at Freddie B_sports for Freddie over here. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Great viewing tonight. Great to see. Larry B jumping in the chat right at the end to say the Dodgers are ridiculous. That is true. Next question. Yeah, and so we will be back. Oh, go ahead.
You talk about ridiculous, but Shohei Ohtani, questions about his knee and
Yes.
pitching going forward as well. So we could talk about that next week, see how his health is, and see how that, if the Dodgers start leaning more to getting like that Scooble, making a deal with them to bring in that arm. So that's something that we need to keep an eye on as well, Mike.
Yep. Now, I will say last year, I think in our final episode of last year's Bullpen Bulletin, I think one of my predictions was Scooball was going to be a Dodger. So we will see how that finishes itself out. But until then, thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. We'll be back next week to talk more baseball. And of course, as always, this has been Mike, Patt, and Freddie B for the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.